and compete. And with Ball stepping up, that's really good.
Zig was a player who was in exactly the same situation and actually stepped up more often than not. I mean, if we follow the spring split storylines for these guys, there was a lot of proving themselves and a lot of redemption because they were the 3rd and 4th place team at the end of the regular season. Even going into the playoffs, they were also the 3rd and 4th place team. They were consistently upper echelon, but that just has not been the case early on.
One thing I want to point out too, that 3rd and 4th place match that happened during the playoffs, that went to a full 5 games. So these two teams can definitely slug it out against one another. At the end of the day, one of them will find the victory against the other here. Bans going through decently quickly. Kennen, LeBlanc, and Ivern banned away by Phoenix1. FlyQuest responding with Zac and Galio. So many Zac bans, a lot of Galio bans these days.
Yeah, we really are seeing teams continually adjust to this 7.11 patch. Galio, especially with how potent he can be, even in the mid lane on certain teams that are playing around it properly, is pretty huge. So no surprises with those bans.
Zig gonna go ahead, lock in Shen, first and foremost for Phoenix1, getting that top lane tank up there that gives the global pressure as well.
Yeah, and not really any Elise bans, which is a little bit surprising just because Elise has been such a big champion in the meta so far. Moon already played it 3 times. Meteos hasn't played it yet this split, but that was, along with Zac, pretty much his signature champion. So really high priority on Shen for Phoenix1 there, but if they're trying to play around Arrow, it makes sense as a first pick.
I mean, when you saw Meteos going off and having really good games, it was pretty much Elise, Olaf, or Zac. And with Zac banned away, Elise still available, but Moon's going to be picking up that Rengar along with the Zyra picked up by FlyQuest.
Yeah, what month is this? Because it feels a little bit like FlyQuest was like, you know what, we started Spring Split great. We were picking Rengar a lot for Moon because it was super OP, and he was carrying a lot of games. So let's do it now. It's a different patch, it's a different game. Rengar's not as strong, especially with so many junglers up. That is very much FlyQuest just saying they want Moon in a carry scaling position. They're doing it with Rengar, so it's not as powerful as it was in the spring, but they're going to go with the same style.
When you look at the FlyQuest wins, it's all about High and it's all about Moon early on in the first part of the previous split. High Moon, those two were the ones getting it done and snowballing the rest of the map. But Phoenix1 looking like they might be taking a risk here. They've locked themselves in the Karma, but they're thinking about the Rek'Sai.
It's a long hover.
And they will lock it in.
Second Rek'Sai we're going to see in the North American LCS. We got to see it from Xsmithy earlier on.
I don't know about this one, Jatt. I don't know.
Really good job on it. I mean, I've been talking a lot with Zyrene, who is kind of the person who plays the most Rek'Sai in the group. And the ultimate right now is incredibly unreliable. You can no longer, for those of you who don't know, Rek'Sai saw a suite of changes in patch 7.11 and actually has a very low win rate in solo queue right now, whether that's from familiarity. I think a lot of it is from unreliability of the ultimate. You can no longer go to your tunnels with your ultimate. Essentially, you mark someone with any damage, you can then ult and you kind of appear next to them, so to speak, but it misses very easily. You can sidestep it, and then Rek'Sai is kind of in there with nothing left to do. A lot of the scalings have been moved around on Rek'Sai, and maybe even worse late game than it was before. So it might just be a big-time early game pick for Meteos.
And by the way, he means sidestep literally. You don't have to flash out of it. You don't have to dash out of it. You can literally walk out of the ability, and Rek'Sai won't connect with that damage. Of course, changing that ultimate also means she lost the passive attack speed she had from the old one, so some of those stats also going to be down.
Yeah, and that's why the scaling could potentially be worse if you're going to go with the old tank builds that we used to see. I have seen a few Rek'Sais pop off with some big warrior enchantment into something like Titanic or Ravenous Hydra, just big attack damage builds, but unlikely we're going to see that from Meteos. Very surprising that neither of these guys went with Elise when it's such a powerful pick, and both of them are good at it.
Such a top-tier pick right now, but it's going to be left on the shelf this time around. Rumble was the final pick for FlyQuest in this first part of the draft. We're into the second ban phase as Phoenix1 takes Talon off the table. Definitely a target ban towards High. We've seen what High can do on the Talon before, while Syndra and Ahri are the bans for FlyQuest, also respecting the opposing mid laner.
Yeah, in FlyQuest's defeat yesterday, they had pretty strong Talon performances by High. They barely fell to Immortals, right? 1-2 in that set. So understand the Talon ban. High has not shown the same playmaking potential on his other picks.
And it is those champions. This goes back to what we were talking about with High Moon, right? It's those champions that can roam around and make picks and get the rest of the map going. We saw High play champions like a Karma that just doesn't seem as suited to his style, whereas if you get him on a Talon, or back in the days of Corki mid being OP, that was where High made the plays.
Yeah, hasn't yet found the champion that really fits for him right now. Tons of Orianna play comes in. Obviously can't do that because of the ban. Just just going with something reliable like Ashe, which neither team picked a marksman, neither team decided to pinch the pool.
Well, Ashe locked in for WildTurtle means that Phoenix1 now thinking about the other bow wielder. Varus being hovered right now. They still got a couple more seconds to lock that one in, and once that's done, they're still going to have to pick a mid laner, or they could potentially be flexing the Karma to mid and picking a support instead.
Yeah, still kind of able to do whatever they want, but it will be something FlyQuest can easily respond to. A lot of stuff still up for Shady. The question will be, do they just try and put him on a shielder like Karma, as usual? And what will Ryu play?
Well, it looks like they are thinking about putting him on that Karma because everything being hovered is mid laners. We saw the Cassio hover earlier at the very start of the draft. Now they finally lock it in there at the end, and it will be Ryu on that Cassiopeia. Now FlyQuest gets to counterpick that, give High the most favorable matchup possible.
Yeah, I mean, 5 to 6 mid laners already banned away, so a lot of the things that Cassiopeia wouldn't be great against are already off the table. You could have made the argument that High should have picked the Cassiopeia earlier, since I think Cassiopeia does win the Viktor matchup, but Viktor may be kind of the best available left if High just wants to split lane with Ryu.
Well, that's the name of the game now. Sides locked in, everything finalized. Some interesting outcomes so far. Like you said, the prioritization of the Shen very early, the complete ignoring of Elise by both teams. Viktor versus Cassiopeia in the mid lane. And both of these teams, remember, have just had such rocky starts compared to what they look like in spring.
And I think that could be why we're seeing a few odd things happening in Champion Select. A lot goes into finding success as a team in League of Legends, and when these teams are both struggling to find it early on in the season, you're going to see them doing things differently than the teams that are succeeding, just because if they were doing the same things as the teams that were succeeding, well, they would be succeeding themselves. So they're trying to find that identity that can lead to their own victory there with some different that shred of success.
I mean, there is a lot of damage potential, too. When you look at FlyQuest, you got a Rumble in the top lane, you've got a Rengar in the jungle, Zyra on support. This team is so loaded with damage, and AoE potential, too. Between Viktor, Zyra, and Rumble, you can't fight these guys in a choke point.
Yeah, anyone can make a play on FlyQuest, and that's what they want, especially with Moon running around, finding people that he can duel with in 2v2 skirmishes. Ghost on High, on the Viktor, a strong summoner spell, but expect him, more so than just using that in team fights, to use that to rotate around the map and make it to the top or the bottom lane.
Loading into Summoner's Rift for the first time today between these two teams. One will walk away, finally getting themselves on the board. The other, like you mentioned earlier with Team Liquid's victory just moments ago, is going to be the sole winless team in the North American LCS at the end of week number 2.
Just not what you expected coming into this split. And a lot of the time, when we're coming in early on into the split, you expect a certain level of upheaval in the standings, because usually the schedule makers in the NA LCS say, who was exciting, like who was good at the end of last split? Let's have them play each other a lot at the start of the split for hype matches to kind of get people back into it. That's why you'll usually see, you know, like a TSM versus Cloud9 opening game, and then you'll be like, oh, someone's struggling. C9 opened up 0-2 because they had a super hard schedule. These teams haven't actually had a super hard schedule. No. FlyQuest has lost to Immortals team, Dignitas and Echo Fox. And Phoenix1 has lost to Cloud9, Envy, and Immortals. So no one who had massively successful splits aside from Cloud9. So not really your strength of schedule excuse for being 0-3. It's just they're not beating the teams that they were able to beat last split.
Which is very unfortunate for both. And one thing I want to touch back to that we were observing earlier, you said when you saw that Rek'Sai locked in on the side of Phoenix1, talking about the success that you sometimes see from the damage-heavy builds, and you didn't expect to see that from Meteos. I do want to point out that he has gone Fervor as opposed to Courage of the Colossus or something similar. So we may see Meteos go for more of that fighter approach on this champion, as it appears we have a pause.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out exactly what that is. Nice thing about the Battle Theater is they have a good view of the players. Looks like Ryu is talking to the referee right now, trying to see if something needs to be sorted. If they need to check it, the technicians will be out on the stage quickly. And I do want to talk about Meteos a little bit, just because it definitely feels like he just kind of gets to do what he wants when he comes on to Phoenix1. Phoenix1 knows they need the help of Meteos when Inori isn't performing in these games, and I think that's why we're seeing the Rek'Sai, or why Meteos comes in and kind of builds or plays whatever he wants, because they're willing to take what they can get with him, and he's still so skilled after all these years of not really seeming like he's doing the same grind that all the other players are doing.
Right. He just comes in, he plays how he wants to play. It's actually a topic of discussion that I had when I was doing the analyst desk with Zyrene and Meteos during the ULOL college finals. Zyrene and Meteos were talking about jungling items and how you see the prominence of the tracker's knife these days. Everybody wanting the warding potential and things like that. And Meteos just said, he's like, you know, I'm not really that big of a fan of the tracker's knife. I much prefer having the red smite, having the blue smite. And he's still one of the only players in professional League of Legends you'll see buying one of those instead of the tracker's knife.
Yeah, and you'll run around blue smiting people and probably not even building a sightstone on Rek'Sai. I mean, that's what we're expecting in this game. And back when Rek'Sai was meta, we did kind of see that fight, I guess, in the mind of Rek'Sai players, because you really do want chilling smite on him. Because when you're burrowed as a Rek'Sai, if you're not Eing, which is actually kind of a hard skill shot to use, you need some way of closing the distance without using flash. And it's almost always chilling smite. But you also need vision control out of the jungle, and that's what everyone relies on Tracker's Knife for. So either you'd see these guys go chilling smite tank with the sightstone and losing their dueling potential, or you see the Rek'Sais run in there with chilling smite, no sightstone, and just be full greed. And it's always this weird trade-off you have to make. I mean, I'm expecting Meteos to go chilling smite, no sightstone, because that's what he wants to do, and that'll make him feel the best.
Well, we'll see if he gets away with it this game. We are back onto Summoner's Rift. Quick update for you guys. FlyQuest was having a lighting issue with the stage lights, but apparently that's taken care of now, and we are back. 1 minute, 30 seconds into the game as the minions are about to collide. Balls and Moon going to be starting off at that Raptor camp, which is so popular to start off at these days. Pretty much solidified itself as the most effective jungle start.
Yep. When it's tuned in the way that it gives more experience than every other camp.
It's almost like,
allows you to get level 4 by clearing the first 5 camps, which if you start anywhere but the Raptors, you need to clear 6 camps to get level 4. Pretty obvious.
Yeah,
it ends up that.
Always want to be going for whatever gets you that extra level up over your opponent.
Yeah, I kind of hope we change that a little bit. I'd like to see a little bit less experience in that camp early on. Would definitely change things up a little bit, but there is an inherent level of risk starting Raptors because there's a lot of contention, so I can see why the design is like that as well. But it feels like it's getting fairly stagnant, and usually when that happens, it needs to get switched up a bit.
Yeah, the risk of it, the amount of damage that the Raptors can do to a lot of champions, especially early on. That's the only camp where the baby critters do more damage than the big one. Every other camp, you like to kill the big one first, unless you're something like the Kha'Zix. But
yeah, exactly. The designers actually have hookups in the game so they can kind of track which jungle camp executes the most junglers in solo queue. By far, it's the Raptors. The people are dying,
I'm not surprised.
Because you just underestimate the damage. Meteos, though, did a really quick 3-camp level 3. Here he comes!
Lemonnation knocked up into the air. The Ignite is down, and first blood is already claimed. Phoenix1 fast on the trigger.
I love Meteos right here. So you can tell by the minimap, actually, he cleared Raptors Red and the Scuttle Crab. And the only way that gives you level 3 is you either kill a ward or you bring an experienced Quint. He didn't kill a ward, so he brought an experienced Quint. Before the game, he said, guys, I'm doing Rek'Sai, I'm diving them at level 3, let's go.
This is the play.
And it worked.
Those little subtleties to catch him off guard like this.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually one of Rek'Sai's big strengths that we remember from when he was more meta, is his amazing ability to gank over that wall specifically. He sneaks in there fairly quickly, cuts you off, and then he's still going to be able to follow you flash for flash. So his ability to dive that first turret is almost unmatched aside from someone like Elise, but Rek'Sai gets in there even faster than she does as far as the first clear perspective.
I mean, honestly, in a meta where Zac is banned or picked almost 100% of games, the topic of where can you gank from and gank pathing is really an interesting one, because when you have all those different options, when you have all those different avenues, there's a ton of stuff that your opponents have to be careful for.
Yeah, and somebody's already built Chilling Smite, so that's question answered right there for Meteos. He's going to go for that, but he did expend a lot with that gank, so FlyQuest trying to respond to this. Really smart by Balls to come in here and harass this blue buff. Balls Meteos wants
him off of it.
Yep,
down to 300 HP. Meteos will make sure he secures that one, not giving that over to Balls. But like you said, smart of Balls recognizing, hey, Meteos doesn't have flash. There's not really a whole lot going on here. I should be able to at least annoy him a bit at this point in time.
Because, I mean, even though Meteos did get that first kill, you can see FlyQuest has actually bounced back in a lot of really good ways. Moon kept farming, so the gold between the junglers is actually still pretty close, 200 gold, despite getting 400 gold for first blood, so he's been out farming him in that regard. And when they invaded blue buff for a ward, they also got a bunch of wards on the bottom side because they had a numbers advantage down there with Moon invading that side of the jungle. So the amount of knowledge that FlyQuest has actually gained, even though Meteos got the kill reward, might pay off and allow FlyQuest to get back into a gold even.
Speaking of knowledge, you can also see some FlyQuest wards drop down in deep territory inside the P1 jungle, specifically in that bottom red area jungle. You can see the control ward that's been placed very deep. Unlikely that that's going to be found out for a while.
Exactly. How disciplined is Meteos? A lot of pro players, even on the international level, aren't checking that brush, let alone someone who has mostly just been chilling in solo queue before coming into the LCS like Meteos. So it'll be a while, I think, before someone checks that brush to clean that control ward.
You can see the other one there in the pixel brush in the river. So FlyQuest doing everything they can to just eke out those slight information edges over their opponents to allow them to continue being aggressive like they are here, keeping themselves in an okay spot. They try to fight back against Shady and they try to fight back against Arrow, but it's a little bit difficult when Karma and Varus can lay down that level of poke. You're Ashe Zyra though. I mean, you got plenty of damage of your own.
Yeah, and I mean, this point in the game too is where Meteos is really strong. I wonder if he did this intentionally. He actually has 2 points in E this early on into the game. You do get a cooldown reduction on your tunnel reburrow. It's currently at 8 seconds. It goes all the way down to 2 right now if you max the E. I doubt we're going to see that though, because the in and out, you need the damage as well for that. So really curious to see what Meteos ends up going with that, or if that was an accidental skill up.
You saw the miasma and that gravity field both thrown down there in the mid lane between these two mages. A lot of zone control potential from both of these two this time around. Both teams have to be very, very aware of exactly what they're running into, trying to make a play against each other. FanVote, though, says there are a lot of FlyQuest believers out there today. 68% of people think that FlyQuest is walking away with the win as the petrifying gaze doesn't find anything. I just walks away.
Yep, commend everyone who also threw that vote out with TSM COG happening on the other stream. You are the true fans. Loyal to the very end between FlyQuest and Phoenix1. FlyQuest as well gets a lot of those old school fans. Funny how WildTurtle joins this team, actually was on the first version of Cloud9 before they were even named Cloud9 that tried to qualify for the LCS in the spring of 2013 and came up short. Back when High was a jungler for that team. So these guys go way back for the most part.
High is one of those guys that's played pretty much everything at this point. He has seen every nook and cranny of the LCS almost, and just keeps coming back time and time again. It was his leadership, along with his plays themselves on Summoner's Rift and Spring Split, that allowed this team to do so much of what they did. The words that always came up time and again were high shot calling, high shot calling, high shot calling. And that's what FlyQuest depends on to win a lot of their games.
Yeah, and Meteos in the jungle in those early days playing against him, you get to have that feel when he plays against C9, but these are actually more of his true teammates from back in the day about 4 years ago. A lot of veteran experience coming in on this side as well.
Game slowed down. Not that it was ever incredibly fast, but sometimes you get a little bit antsy thinking maybe you're going to see a high-octane game when First Blood comes out at level 3 thanks to an experience Quint. Meteos not finding any further opportunities right now, though.
Yeah, and Ryu gets harassed a lot there while trying to stop High's recall. It puts him in danger of Moon if he wants to go for a Rengar ultimate into that mid lane. He's kind of hoping that Ryu would show himself somewhere, but wandering down towards that Infernal Drake. Really nice rotation and call here by Phoenix1, actually.
And this is the kind of Drake that you make these rotations and calls for. Everybody puts a lot of value on the Infernal as opposed to the other Drakes. And 8.5 minutes in, it looks like P1 should acquire this without any contest. FlyQuest is aware of what's happening, but they're not exactly in a position to do anything about it as Moon shows up topside. Equalizer going to be coming down. Moon trying to find the extra damage that's needed. Backs himself away from the aggro point. Now Ball's going to be the one tanking. The turret has to flash away. Zig almost gets the outplay.
Yeah, he tried his best, but he was super dead there with the way they had a level 8 Rumble and a level 7 Rengar able to fly in there. Once Meteos was shown with everyone else on Phoenix1 by the hawk shot at the Drake pit that made that gank pretty seamless call for Moon. In those situations, when your team gets 4 people spotted during Drake and the enemy jungler is missing, plus the waves push your turret, you run. Zig should have just given up that wave, so as much as his team wasn't there to help him, the death's on him because they should have been able to communicate and let him know that Moon should be coming.
And it's what we talked about before the game as well here, Jatt, because there was discussion about FlyQuest. They have no wins yet, but they often get early leads, just like you're seeing them with this game. 9.5 minutes in, almost 2,000 gold above Phoenix1, even though they've only got 1 kill. Yeah,
absolutely. FlyQuest using a lot of the information to jump up in this game. Rumble always shoves in Shen early, so was chipping away at that turret. Rengar has tremendous turret killing potential after that.
Oh, you see, traded back and forth down here bottom side. Flash away from Shady, staying alive.
And he burns his flash before Ashe arrow even flies out, so kind of giving the advantage right back over to WildTurtle Lemonnation, which has to sting after they got the level 3 2-minute and 40-second gank from Meteos in the back of the turret, which you think would give him that edge in the lane. It's just not to be in this Phoenix1 bottom lane. Arrow in particular, really not showing up or extending any types of advantages like he did in the spring.
Right, the spring split MVP, the guy who would carry from the bot lane and just be the machine that Phoenix1 needed to get the wins. And so far, he and Shady just haven't been able to find their synergy, find their ability to win from this bottom lane, which means Phoenix1 is down a win condition.
Yeah, and then they don't have many left outside of that, right?
Right, yeah.
Inori was their old school win condition. He hasn't been performing. They bring in Meteos.
You've got 2 win conditions, and you lose 2 win conditions.
Yeah, and then it's Ryu, but even Ryu in a matchup where I do feel like it's slightly Cassio favored. High is up. 2 waves of CS, so nice early game here from FlyQuest.
Well, Moon's a little far forward there. Stopping the ult, trying to run away. I don't think it's going to do a whole lot of anything. A shutdown for Arrow, not even a shutdown, just kills him straight up. Moon's first death of the game. Arrow gets on the board.
Yeah, Moon trying to reap the rewards of the control ward that was placed in the jungle to theoretically let him know someone is in there, but gets caught out.
Baited by his own team to go in there, try to secure that extra mini objective as High turns his back to the Petrifying Gaze, enough to avoid the stun, but he is very, very low HP. Got to be mindful of that one.
Yeah, Rengar also in base, so no one to help him, but Arrow taking a bit of damage, and the turret is getting very low down in that bot lane.
And those turrets can quickly snowball a gold lead that much further. FlyQuest, they got the turret first blood. You mentioned it earlier, how the Rumble pushing made it so they were able to grab that when their opponents took Infernal Drake. Here's another look at what happened to Moon.
Yeah, just walking through the jungle. I'm not really sure what type of play he was trying to set up there, since WildTurtle was down in that bottom lane with an Ashe arrow, unable to really assist.
And this is kind of what we talked about too. Early lead for FlyQuest, end up making some risky plays, some crazy calls, really aggro moves, and it puts them in a spot where they're way worse for wear, and essentially end up giving away the lead. League of Legends is a game where you can win by outplaying your opponents and making some fantastic maneuvers, or you just do more goofy stuff than they do and you end up throwing it away.
Yeah, and for now, FlyQuest is just smashing and pushing in lanes on Phoenix1 and hoping not to suffer too many casualties. They did not get the Infernal Drake, which hurts a little bit, but if they can keep pressure in these lanes, they could get a substantial gold lead.
Absolutely. Meteos forcing the flash out from High instantaneously. If High would have waited any longer, Meteos could have tried to flash, get that knock up onto him, potentially set up death, followed up by the grounding effect of the Cassiopeia miasma. Meanwhile, TP.
Balls were already with the big lead, so he has the freedom to do this. Here comes Moon. They want the turret and the kills.
Break down the turret, go for the kills right after. That's the plan. The last auto attack comes in. Can they find the damage they need? Equalizer is down. Arrow running away. Stand united to keep him alive. Balls taunted up. More damage flying through. Volley backwards to try to disengage this one. Stranglethorn's going to be used to the same ends. Meteos looking for the chance to get in here. Flashing forward into the knockups. That's going to lock down some FlyQuest members, but the damage from Balls is real.
Cassiopeia
taken low. Cassiopeia makes her way into the back of the fight. The damage comes through. Zyra eats a single unenchanted Twin Fang, so that's not too fantastic, but it's still going to be a 3-for-1 going Phoenix1's way.
Yeah, Phoenix1 gets a clean up, mainly because Ryu beat High down to the bottom lane. Not what you often see. High usually the first to roam, but instead just playing that turret push style as Viktor. When all said and done, they might actually try and get that third turret, but teleport coming in from Zig.
Zig wants to TP here. Oh, the flash taunt, and that is another death. WildTurtle goes down, and Phoenix1 goes up to 6-2.
Pretty slick there from Zig. Making it past the gravity field from High. Gonna watch this one more time. The idea was great by FlyQuest, but I think they tipped their hand a little early. Moon didn't need to ultimate that early, and I think it gave Phoenix1 a big heads up on what was going to happen. Zig ready and waiting with the ultimate. Phoenix1 ready to retreat up, and it gives Ryu and Meteos an early tip on when to go bottom lane. Zig wants to get in early as well as Meteos. One big change, you don't get to knock up everyone, you just knock up one and knock the other two back, which is why they were able to return so much damage since the CC wasn't as strong. Nice little tick out on Moon, and he leaves Lemonnation for the rest.
Gives that gold over to his teammates. What a team player. Phoenix1 now looking to find their second elemental Drake of the game. Not Infernal this time around. Going to be Ocean instead to give them that extra regeneration over time, provided they're out of combat. And they'll secure that one, no contest, just like the first one. Chains of Corruption from Arrow, though, don't find their mark. And the collapse is there. Arrow gets punished, taken down.
First death of the game. Hey!
Uh-oh.
That would have actually been quite the arrow if it hits.
Especially since it was aimed at Arrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Would have been very unlucky. But team kind of abandons arrow right there. It's something we seldom saw in the spring split. Kind of speaks to some of their struggles, but they do pick up that second Drake.
Second Drake going their way, even though they've still got no turrets. The objective count overall, 2-2, 2 turrets versus 2 Drakes. Still a 2,000 gold game for FlyQuest, but you've got to be a bit concerned when Phoenix1 is able to turn your plays on their head like that.
I think it is fairly concerning for FlyQuest that they have been pushing the lane so hard with these CS advantages, but they haven't really... I feel like they haven't taken over the game. Phoenix1 still able to kind of get the fights on them. Now would be a time to fight, though. Level 11 on both Rumble and Viktor.
Well, Cassiopeia is out of there already. 30 seconds till he's back in action. Rift Herald going to be resetting here, losing all that patience as she wanders into the jungle randomly. Meanwhile, the rest of FlyQuest now have the opportunity to make something happen in a 5 versus 4 for the next 15 seconds or so. High should have no problem taking down this outer tier 1, the last one of its kind. So that opens up more territory across the map for FlyQuest to maybe invade Phoenix1's lands, get those wards down, and get the opportunities to set up more picks.
Plus, this Rift Herald is most likely theirs, which will be great for breaking the inner turrets. 3 turrets to 0 is the time when you want to start opening up that game, unless Phoenix1 can find some initiations to start coming back in this game.
Moon's gonna be forced to pop the flash there just to escape. Doesn't even bother waiting around to see if Meteos is gonna step up. Just knows he has to flash the ball right immediately. Lemonnation gets the root.
Yeah, and an update on Meteos' Rek'Sai. He actually is 3 points Q, 5 points E. So he's gone with the tunnel max, so he can take him back 2 seconds later. He's very much trying to do the in and out Rek'Sai. Really want to see if he can actually pull it off in team fights.
Yeah, I want to see if that works.
I was expecting the Q max for the damage, but he has gone a different direction.
Well, usually it is your most basic damage, bread and butter skill that gets maxed on pretty much any champion, right? So seeing the utility option...
I am talking out my face right here. The E is the Furious Bite. Sorry, the burrow unburrow is W. It's still sitting at 1 point, so he hasn't gone for any reduction.
Unlucky.
Yeah, I'm sorry, friends, but we're clear now. We're good.
We all make mistakes every now and again, and Ryu has made a mistake stepping up that far, or has he? Rooted, but he still finds himself a kill. Coming from behind, it's Balls looking to burn these boys away. Damage comes out onto Zig, WildTurtle flashing forward, looking to take down Arrow, grabs that kill for High. FlyQuest still looking to find more if they can. A ghosted Viktor has some serious pursuit power. Shady gonna be eating some lasers, some other lasers. High's forced to flash away. Meteos chasing after him. You gotta respect the bite if you stick around any longer. And that fight is gonna be it for now, 2 for 1.
Yeah, FlyQuest just has so much more damage than Phoenix1 in these team fights. We were talking during champs like how FlyQuest has damage and threat from every single role. And the way these fights are happening, it's not like Phoenix1 is chaining a bunch of CC for them. They're just kind of brawling in the jungle. Yes, they do get some stuff down onto Moon right at the start, but then everyone else is free to just blast Phoenix1. Turtle can flash forward because all CC was expended onto Moon, and rank 2 ultimates on both High and Balls wreck Phoenix1.
And Turtle flashing forward, a choice that often earns him criticism from fans, but that time it allows him to apply the slows and the damage he needs to add extra kills to FlyQuest's record as this game goes on. Balls in the bottom side river, clearing out some of these wards. The next Drake will be a second Ocean. Not going to be spawning for a little bit still, but if FlyQuest can keep control over the neutral areas in this map, that's the first step to moving up, like we mentioned earlier, putting more deep vision into enemy territory like that ward, which, by the way, Jatt, is still not dead.
Yeah, it's not going to die anytime soon. I feel like, unless FlyQuest decides to move it. Let's see who placed it. It was placed by Source Time. It doesn't tell me.
Source Time. All right, fantastic. Source Time knows how to place those wards down and get them in a spot where they're not going to be found out. Mid lane, tier 1 under pressure, while Rift Herald is summoned in the top side for FlyQuest to help push that one down. Meteos trying to dive here onto High, having to flash away just to stay alive. High's damage is just absolutely ridiculous. Here comes Moon on the prowl, grabbing himself a kill. FlyQuest will lose their mid lane tier 1, but they claim the enemy top lane tier 2, and WildTurtle still got a Rift Herald up here.
I mean, they're all over the map. They're just pushing every lane. Phoenix1 can't keep up whatsoever. We were talking about FlyQuest hasn't been able to kind of put that team cohesion or make that pressure work, but they are doing it right now against Phoenix1.
And in Spring Split, that's how they won their games. They played as a unit. They worked together. It was that experience factor of these guys having played together so much before. You went back to saying they were the original Cloud9 before it was Cloud9. that means that you know how these guys play, you know how to work together as a team. And now Baron being melted down very rapidly. FlyQuest claims that one. P1 shows up to try to see if they can get anything off the back of it, but volleys fired out means FlyQuest is walking away.
Yeah, and that just extends their lead now to 7,000. And I'm impressed by FlyQuest early on in this game, especially after hearing about some words Moon had for our features team yesterday. This should probably air later. It's not quite ready yet, but he said the team just is really bad at managing minion waves. As far as talking about how they can control games, FlyQuest has been struggling with this fact. But this game, it's been much better. They almost have every lane pushing, and to be able to do that after, he said it last night, that they've been really bad at it, is pretty impressive. It's a lot to do with the picks, right? The Rumble outshoves the Shen, the Viktor can clear waves with one spell, but they're just keeping the pressure up across the board and kind of finding that energy they felt like they had in the spring split. The question will be now, can they keep doing that in the late game when Phoenix1 is scaled up a little bit, and if they can find the right initiations without a true tank or any of the sort.
Right, we're still at the part of the game that is the historic strength for FlyQuest. We mentioned high shot calling and them having these crazy gambit plays, and that's one of them, is to go for that 20-minute Baron, but now Balls is caught out in the top side. Arrow and Ryu put the damage into him. The equalizer to farm the minion wave before he dies. Just clear out as much extra as possible. Good pickup for Phoenix1.
I mean, trying to keep that turret from falling, it should be successful, but still not the type of death you want to have early on into your Baron buff because that delays your push. But 3 people were up there to kill him. So that means Moon WildTurtle, because they had the minion wave pushed down in the bottom side, pays off with the turret for them. And even High pushing the mid lane. They're trying to push everything at once. The trick is doing this without dying.
There's a massive objective advantage for FlyQuest right now as High gets himself picked off. So Phoenix1 will stem that tide for the moment, but they've still got to worry about Lemon, still got to worry about Moon. Rengar ultimate in effect right now. Turtle retreating through the enemy jungle. Moon will stay right beside him just in case. They manage to get themselves out, taking some chickens for this run.
Yeah, FlyQuest playing a pretty dangerous game as usual. Actually, in the spring, they'd have a lot of games like this where they were always daring the other team to respond to them, putting themselves in risky situations. And because the other team was in such a responsive state, they'd often win. Well, Phoenix1 is responding and getting a lot of kills, but still unable to regain the pressure. If FlyQuest keeps getting picked off like they have, though, Balls dying top lane, High dying mid lane, and they're not getting inhibitor turrets because those turrets get progressively harder to take the closer you get to the Nexus because they are easier to defend. You could see a world in which Phoenix1 comes back to this game. It's still a pretty far ways from that point.
One thing I want to go ahead and point out is the item purchase from Zig, which is the adaptive helm on Shen. This item, one of the new niche items created for magic resistance, works very, very well against DOT-based champions, damage over time, like Rumble, like Singe, but it was actually Freak who did some math and some number crunching on it and found out the item is very inefficient compared to its counterpart Spirit Visage against any other kind of damage.
Exactly, so Freak really doesn't like adaptive helm, and I tend to agree with him on his analysis. So essentially you have to take about 1,000 to 2,000 damage from Rumble for the 15% damage reduction from repetitive spells that Adaptive Helm helps you get to make up for the health difference between it and Spirit Visage, even against Rumble, not even talking about the other sources you are going to be facing. With that being said, if you're like healing and shielding and having really extended fights, you could theoretically have it pay off, but that's an Ashe arrow, they're pushing mid.
Arrow from downtown finds its way only onto Shady, the Chains of Corruption, blocking any follow-up from FlyQuest. They want to try to burn down this tier 2, but the fact the backdoor bonus is up means they got to step back.
Yeah, trying to find that kill. They don't have a very safe way of diving all the way in as of yet, so that's why they're trying to get the Ashe onto someone who can make a maybe layer of Equalizer with to try and burst out, but they don't use the Equalizer there because they feel like they can safely get this turret on the next wave. Teleport coming in from Phoenix1. They're trying to force. This is really dangerous for P1 because FlyQuest wants the fight to use their damage out here.
Lemonnation not finding the mark with his roots. Taunt away from Zig. Considering they see that engage mechanism used to disengage instead, FlyQuest feels comfortable turning right back around. Lemonnation still postured very, very aggressively in the enemy jungle, but FlyQuest will just fall back on that one after all.
Yeah, TP down. No initiation to be found. Probably lucky for Phoenix1. You do not want to force fights like that down 8,000 gold. I think the strategy for P1 should be to hold onto the footstep of their inhibitors for a while and hope that FlyQuest mess up the dive. They do not have the person that can actually tank the turret. It looks like Moon might be building up towards a Gargoyle Stoneplate, which could work. On Rengar, you go in, use all your ferocity, and then pop it. Might help tank the turret a little bit.
seen Gargoyle's Stoneplate become immensely popular in the wake of the changes to Guardian Angel that removed it as a double resistance tank item, changed it more to a carry/fighter item instead. Shady not going to be found by the arrow this time around. FlyQuest always just looking for those picks. They know that all they need is one, and then they can force the issue. You don't have to have an ideal diving composition if you've got the 5v4 advantage.
Yeah, or just the Ashe arrow, as you mentioned. That can start a fight and give you not just a one-person pick, but actually just starts the team fight for you if you're finishing it off.
No QSSs either on the side of Phoenix1, so no way out if you do find yourself hit by one of those arrows. Sometimes you see players taking cleanses or buying QSSs, or even Mikhail's Crucible up against an arrow because of its game-ending playmaking potential, but there's none of that. No QSS for Arrow or Ryu, no Mikhail's for Shady, Ryu running Ghost instead of Cleanse. You gotta be real mindful.
Feels like they just don't have the gold to do it right now. They need to build up damage and resistances. Looks like Stoneplate is gonna be the buy for Meteos as well.
And Meteos does end up going tanky.
Yep.
That's one thing we're seeing. Meteos, despite the fact that he's running the Fervor just to give himself a little bit of extra damage, he got the Tiamat for the clear potential in the jungle, but after that it's been Cinderhulk into tank items, so not really changing into that. We want Rek'Sai to be a damage-heavy diver.
No, I think it's going to take a while before people are willing to go over there. It's just,
that's strange territory.
It's a really hard play style to make work in competitive, generally speaking.
Whoop, Moon's made his way bottom side. Equalizer down. That's a lot of damage onto Zig. Adaptive Helm or not, he's out of there. Balls grabs the kill.
Yeah. You can have all the items you want when you're in a 2v1 like that as a Shen. You're probably not winning it this stage in the game, and that's bad timing too. 35 seconds on the death timer. FlyQuest can now take full control over the Baron pit.
Yeah, 35 seconds on that death timer, 10 seconds on Baron, and only 14 on the Earth Dragon. So even if you can't go for Baron, you don't want to flex the muscles that hard, you can still grab the the Earth Drake, excuse me.
What is Arrow trying to do though here? It's a hero play. He has his flash up, but he's standing on a control board.
I don't know about the lone
Q or something.
Lone Ranger Varus over here.
He's got 1 point in Piercing Arrow, so it's not exactly the ultimate stealing tool. Shen's ult gonna be up in 2 seconds, though. They can fight.
Moon is rooted. He's taken very low. Has to flash away from Baron just to stay alive. Balls into the back line. Gonna be taunted up, but no! Instead, the Zhonyas will keep him just fine. P1 now trying to disengage this one. Ryu and Meteos low. Arrow and Shady coming in from the side as Zig still looks for the opportunity to potentially re-engage once cooldowns are up. High, under half health, but still constantly forward, pushing those lasers into Phoenix1 health bars.
Turns into a good hold by Phoenix1. They have to burn a few summoner spells, but they saved the Baron. It only cost them the ultimate from Shen. This will be the question, right? FlyQuest had big leads yesterday, was unable to close out to win the series. Phoenix1 trying to do something similar against them today.
Phoenix1, remember the team that won that 3rd and 4th place match in Vancouver, the ones who ultimately came out with a 3-2 score, full 5 games, close series, but it was Phoenix1 that walked away from the victory. So FlyQuest finding their series win here. It's not only something that puts them on the board for Summer Split, it's vengeance for the results from Spring. Always nice to take down the guys that managed to barely beat you back in the previous split, as Lemonnation might find himself getting caught out here. Flashes away from Meteos, drops the roots to continue the retreat. High's made his way towards the fight now. Lasers fired off, but High walks into quite a lot of damage of his own.
Yeah, Meteos can't quite get the unburrow right there. You can see not much threat coming out from the Rek'Sai at this stage in the game. Has lost that attack speed scaling. Does not have the multi-knockup from his unburrow the way he used to. I'm going to say it right this time, still just 1 point on the unburrow, so it still takes him a long time to take something back in the fight, so definitely he's either in or out, cannot do it in the same fight.
Those plants just always so obnoxious when you're in a situation like this. Zyra can throw a couple of them up, poke at some people. There's no real risk back to her, since the plant's health bar doesn't do anything to her if they get killed off. But she can still poke at these guys, doing whatever needs to be done. Meteos still hanging around, looking to find the knock-up onto Lemon. He knows there's no flash, and Lemon is burned away, but not before Stranglethorns gets fired off. It's Arrow, who's now in some trouble, and High's grabbing the kill onto that enemy AD carry. Meteos locked up, bullet down, equalizer. They are done. 2 of them down on the ground now as Zig has to try to escape. Moon chasing after Shady, make it number 3. Ryu still trying to kite around, slither his way to some sort of a maneuver in this fight. The Twin Fangs will not do any sort of relevant damage as FlyQuest will take their 3-for-1 and head towards Baron.
Yeah, they're going to turn straight to Baron because Cassiopeia is still alive and can probably clear the minion wave away, but this should be what can break open the base of Phoenix1 eventually. FlyQuest find the right fight for them there. Meteos did initiate it. You saw that Rek'Sai pick potential, and then all the damage got turned around on them by FlyQuest.
That's the problem sometimes with initiating on a lower value target, even if it's free. One more time.
Exactly. I mean, he even used his flash to get there, and then two of them get caught in the Zyra ultimate, drilled by the Ashe arrow. As we mentioned, they did not have the QSSs or the Mikhail's Crucibles or the Cleanses, so he takes the full CC there. With no AD carry and no jungler, Moon free to kind of run through the team, picks up that third kill. Zips on out of there with a 4-for-2 numbers advantage to go for Baron with.
So you got to keep in mind when playing against Zyra too, unless you well and truly insta-give her, all she needs is a fraction of a second to drop the Stranglethorns, throw out a couple of seeds, and still have a presence in the fight.
Oh, the last time they got Baron, the same thing happened though.
Balls, not again. Flashing away, trying to stay alive. makes his way into the back line as Arrow might be taken down here. Chaos Storm still ticking, but High is forced to retreat. Moon pops the ulti. He's in hot pursuit. Shady barely running away. Meteos dies elsewhere as Ryu... okay.
They did kill WildTurtle as well on the other side, so Chaos has taken hold of this game. Arrow may have wished he executed there, because he doesn't know if Rengar's still chasing you.
But he's actually backing in vision.
He's going to greed here, because if Moon would have chased... Basically, this is what happened. Moon thought that Arrow was going to go for the execute and decided not to chase through.
Right.
Arrow guessed right and gets out with his life.
It's lucky.
Watch this again. WildTurtle blast going over. Going for the 1v1 on Meteos. Gets it, but then can't quite take down Shady.
He almost got the 1v2 double kill. That was the WildTurtle in-your-face plays that he is known for. The ones that can turn you into an excellent player or the guy who threw the game, depending on how they work out. He does grab the kill on that enemy jungler.
Yeah,
1, 4, and 8 now.
Vintage play.
The vintage play.
And the gold lead's extending for FlyQuest, but we have seen this story before. All inhibitor turrets still standing about 10 minutes later since they've been, since the second tier turrets had been taken down. And Cassiopeia, ever present. We know what type of monster that pick can turn into late game. FlyQuest still with the big advantage though.
You mentioned it earlier, Jatt. This team has a hard time getting past that inhibitor line. Very easy to mess this up, but once you have as much damage as they have now, you can do a lot of work on it very rapidly. Arrow comes out, only finds its way from Shen, but meanwhile it's Meteos into the back line as High is taken low and taken down. Meteos burning away. Ryu going to be taken very low now as well. Meteos cannot do anything. Ryu's going to be turned into a nice pair of snakeskin boots, and Phoenix1 have lost 2-for-1.
Yeah, Phoenix1 just not in the position they need to be to defend these pushes. FlyQuest got such an early jump on that one and was very slow funneling into the fight. This is giving FlyQuest a lot of free time.
FlyQuest will take down Nexus Turret 1 as well. Still one left standing to try to protect this game-ending objective. Phoenix1 have a hell of a defense to make here. 30 seconds. Or they've got that jungler and mid laner back up, and FlyQuest is not backing off. They want to end the game right now. Turtle going to go ahead, pop his own QSS, getting away from the taunt from Zig, who now finds himself in full retreat. You might be tanky, but that's still so much FlyQuest damage.
Ooh, baby.
10 seconds on Meteos. Turtle taunted up again now. Zig gonna be burned down as Balls and Turtle still alive. The kills come through, and FlyQuest will take game 1.
One more for their first match win of the split. And that one, even though it looked a little dicey with all the deaths they had while applying very quick pressure, they still came out on top, and they did manage to get the mini waves in the right place, play the objective game, tons of Barons, able to get the Drakes when it mattered, and come out with the victory.
And they managed to do what we praised them for in the pregame, getting the early game leads, saying, look, this team knows how to start a game, while at the same time avoiding the issues that would happen in their previous matches so far in Summer Split, where then they would make way too risky plays, be way too over aggro, and throw that lead away. Yeah,
we look at their game yesterday against Immortals. They had a 10,000 goal lead in the first game, and Immortals won, right? FlyQuest wasn't making the right plays there, but they bought a bunch of damage. The player we called out at the start, Balls, who has been a top performer for them this split, crushed again. He had so much pressure in the top lane, Rumble versus Zig Shen right there, and was the catalyst for a lot of their plays and opened up the map for them. So really good job by Balls and the rest of FlyQuest to pull out that first game.
And you know, Balls on the Rumble, Lemon on the Zyra, you had high on the Viktor. We touched on it very briefly in Champion Select, but the composition from FlyQuest was just so damage heavy that when they got off to that lead, it was really hard for Phoenix1 to endure it.
Yeah, and I mean, even looking at the draft a little bit right here, taking us back to the pregame, a little bit perplexing with the Rek'Sai and the Rengar both being early picked, with Elise just slipping through the pick and ban phase entirely when it's been one of the highest priority junglers all split. Meteos had the early game plan with the Rek'Sai, got that first blood, but it didn't amount to anything past that, and we really didn't see the Rek'Sai have a big pick, so I think looking back, that would definitely be something I wouldn't want them to do again. They can generate picks with the Elise, and that would have done a better job stopping the lane pushes from FlyQuest in the first place. And for FlyQuest, their picks ended up panning out because they're able to pressure every single lane and were able to keep the pressure up the rest of the game.
Yeah, FlyQuest found rewards for their victorious fights. At 29 minutes, they got a 3-for-1 in Phoenix1's jungle, and that led them to taking Baron for the second time.
Yeah, I mean, Meteos gets the pick in this situation, but no QSSs, no cleanses. The Ashe arrow just pegs Arrow there, and Moon with the high damage Rengar, Black Cleaver, and Warrior can just fly in. Another beautiful equalizer there, cutting Meteos off, also damaging Shady enough to allow Moon to execute him with the jump crit. So big thing to open up the game, and that's what gave them the Baron, which ultimately led to the final push.
Right, the final push that occurs only 4 minutes later, from 29-minute Baron to 33-minute game ender at the enemy mid lane.
Yeah, Baron's still on high right here, and Zig is kind of all by himself. Ryu and Meteos trying to set up this play, and also, like, Arrow never makes it into that fight. High actually gets a bunch of damage off onto Arrow while the rest of P1 was focusing him, forces the Zonias out of Ryu, nearly kills Arrow, so the carries couldn't really do much against the quality team fighting of Balls on High in that last fight.
Look at that gold difference over time. A couple little blue molehills and then a sea of red.
Yeah.
It's the FlyQuest advantage. Just once they started going, it never really stopped. A little bit back and forth till about 15 minutes, and then FlyQuest, as soon as they won that fight right before Baron, and then the Baron that they got from it, whoa. Those guys, they managed to translate the lead into a win exactly how they wanted to.
You're always going to see a little back and forth in a FlyQuest game as far as the goal graph is going, because they do not have that crisp, methodical style of closing out the game. But where they failed yesterday, they succeeded today in making use and executing properly on their aggressive plays.
We'll have to see if they can succeed a second time and clinch their first series win of Summer Split. Meet us back here in just a few minutes to see if Phoenix1 can bounce back in Game 2 or if that FlyQuest dream will become a reality. Don't go anywhere.
Meteos, though, did a really quick 3-camp level 3. Here he comes!
Lemonnation knocked up into the air. The Ignite is down, and first blood is already claimed. Phoenix1 fast on the trigger.
Run bottom, Rengar first. I should not. I'm going Ashe. I'm going Ashe. You have shield. I have Mantra. I cannot shoot it. He's slowed. Oh, fuck. Viktor is still mid. We're going to Zyra. We're going to Zyra. Okay. Go mid to Summer. Okay, bro. We win this. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Hey, you guys win this. Yeah, we win this. We're killing Shen. I'm going for it.
Why did I flash? Oh my god.
This guy's dead. I'm chasing. Before Stranglethorns gets fired off, it's Arrow, who's now in some trouble, and High's grabbing a kill onto that enemy AD carry. Meteos locked up, bowling down. Equalizer, they are done. Burning away, Ryu gonna be taken very low now as well. Meteos cannot do anything. Ryu's gonna be turned into a nice pair of snakeskin boots, and Phoenix1 have lost 2-for-1.